Hey, Dr Emma.
Hello, how lovely to meet.
Hey, besties.
But when we think about emotions, ultimately emotions are the feelings we have in our body.
Connection is essential to everything that we do, and it's so great to hear that backing from neuroscience.
The social isolation, when you don't feel connected, you don't feel people are supporting you, is one of the biggest stressors for the body.
And that's not the time when we want someone to say, off to your room then, and we'll shut the door.
So do you feel psychologically safe to be able to express yourself and say what you think?
And it was actually Dr Emma who recommended 7.5 lessons of the brain, which everyone knows has changed my life.
So we are starting with one of our sponsors for the event, which is the amazing Now Press Play. Like, I have spoken about them so many times. Yes, Verity, you get it. You get it. Has anyone used Now Press Play yet? There she is. Well, you're about to. It's going to be great. Honestly, like I was saying to Oscar, I don't really partner with many people. Like, they have to be completely aligned with myself, and it has to be something I've trialed so many times with loads of different children. And I love Now Press Play so much. So Oscar's going to tell us a little bit about it. Say hey, Oscar.
Hey, Oscar.
Hey.
Hey, everyone. So my name's Oscar. I'm the co-founder and now director of product of Now Press Play. And Now Press Play create immersive audio adventures that allow children to live their learning. So to go there, to do it, and perhaps most importantly, to feel it emotionally. And what we're going to do today, if it's okay, is just dive straight in and try it out. So you've all got some headphones. So we're not going to turn them on yet. I'm going to give you some background first. We're going to do, you are a Year 4 class, and we're studying the Stone Age in history, let's say. And you are going to be immersed about halfway through this 25-minute long story. I don't think I need to explain what's happened so far. I think you'll pick it up. Yeah, just to say in advance that this is one of about 100 different experiences we have across from EYFS, Key Stage 1, and Key Stage 2. We're in about 500 schools who subscribe to us on a yearly basis. And each school gets 35 of these, a class set.
For more information on Now Press Play, catch Season 4, Episode 3.
So I'm sure TGMCers, you will join me in welcoming Dr Emma, who is a clinical psychologist and best-selling author. So Dr Emma has brought us Brian the Brain, and she is all about demystifying neuroscientific myths and basically created the concept of drawing neuroscience. Dr Emma very generously gave up some of her time and her amazing expertise to be interviewed by Jen for her book, The Behaviour Lost Modules. We'll make up the title, for the Emotions chapter. So she is an absolute wealth of knowledge with over 15 years of experience of working with and treating mental health difficulties in both public and private sectors. So she's also a university lecturer, so many hats, all of the hats. She's passionate about bringing psychology and evidence-based mental health information beyond the clinic room and to a wider audience. And so we're really lucky to have her here today. She's amazing. A big wave with those flags if you've ever struggled with any big behaviours. Okay, so this interview is going to unpick the role of emotions and behaviour together. Let's do this.
Hey, Dr Emma.
Hello, how lovely to meet.
Hey, besties. Hey. We're so excited to have you here today.
I'm so glad I came down yesterday and not this morning, because I wouldn't have got here.
Indeed. You have, as Evie said, a beautiful ability of illustrating very complex concepts. Let's be honest, neuroscience is not easy. It's very tricky. And you make it really memorable. And there's one thing when I first read your book, Toolkit for Emotions, that I was like, we really need to see this in schools, and we need to be talking about this in schools, and that is the idea of the body budget. And I was hoping you could explain to everyone what the body budget is.
And I shall start by showing it,
Please
because
do.
what I do in my books is I illustrate concepts to try and make them accessible. So I know it's a bit distant for some people, but this is the body budget. So we've got a little gingerbread man or a money box here, and we've got deposits going in, withdrawals going out. Now, this is a book about emotions, and when we think about emotions, we often think about kind of our brain, our mind, and how we're feeling. But when we think about emotions, ultimately emotions are the feelings we have in our body. So this is your body, and it's your body budget. And we need to think about bodies when we think about emotions, but often we disregard those. We think of this mind and body as two separate things. And when we feel, our brain is effectively categorising what we feel in our bodies in the context we're in. And our body budget is a summary of all the things going on in our body, so the general how we're feeling on a day-to-day basis. So I might have woken up, or say by yesterday evening, because I got up at 3:30 yesterday to come down on the 6 o'clock flight, I was feeling a bit, I couldn't describe it exactly, it was just kind of a, the kind of, those feelings we have. That's a summary of everything going on in your body, and there's lots of things feeding into it. So how tired you are, like I was yesterday, if you're hungry, lots of things. And your brain summarises it by looking at your body budget and creating something called affect. So affect is a summary of all that's going on in your body. And we can think of this as, your brain is constantly trying to keep your body budget in balance. So it's trying to keep your body healthy and feeling good. So if I felt tired yesterday, me and my husband were in London, we went to bed at 9:30. Cool, crazy Friday night, kids.
The right crew for that.
Okay, good. And I felt fine the next day because I topped up my body budget. So you can make withdrawals from your body budget. And those withdrawals will be lots of things. So lack of sleep, feeling really hungry. But you've got bigger things as well, like stressors that are going on in your life. So you've got your kind of day-to-day things, but stressors that are going on. And also how we respond to our body budget. Because if we notice it's depleted and go to bed at 9:30, we've just topped it up. If I didn't notice and went out partying last night, which I haven't done for about 15 years, but then I hadn't noticed my body budget, I depleted it more, potentially. So we need to notice our body budget and think about what withdrawals are happening to it. And then we need to think about the deposits we make. So my deposit last night was I rested, I watched some rubbish TV, and I went to sleep. So I created a deposit. My deposit this morning was having a good breakfast. So you can think about the day-to-day things that create deposits to keep your body in balance and feeling okay, but you can think of the bigger things as well. So for example, connections. This room is full of lovely connections I've seen today. Those connections are creating body budget deposits. It's making people feel good. It's making their bodies feel good. And you can think of things like social isolation as well, or social, which is the opposite, which creates a withdrawal. So there's lots of things, these larger things, which create deposits or withdrawals. But you can also think about how you respond to that body budget. So a deposit, I say, is noticing your emotions and responding to them in a helpful way. But if we don't notice our body budget and we just ignore it and we don't respond to our emotions, that creates a withdrawal as well. So it's really kind of how you're feeling on a day-to-day basis, but it's intrinsically tied into your emotions, and you need to do things to consistently top up our body budget and notice where we are and notice the withdrawals.
So it's like our overall balance.
Yeah.
So for us as educators, I think it's really helpful to think about what's in our control when children are coming into our classrooms and maybe they're a bit off balance.
Yeah.
What kind of deposits are in our control that we can support them?
I think on a day-to-day basis, obviously we've got things like breakfast clubs. That's creating a deposit for children. If they come into school very hungry and then they're stressed, their body is stressed, that's creating a withdrawal. So those breakfast clubs, those simple things that we might think are just really obvious, but they actually are creating emotions or helping our body with its body budget. So you've got those kind of basic things. But how we respond to kids, if they feel safe, if they feel able to raise their concerns, if they feel able to talk to their teachers or feel that their teacher cares about them, that's creating a deposit into their bank because they feel safe, they feel less stressed. So we can create or impact on other people's body budgets by how we, kind of the environment we create round about them. And then creating a safe environment for people. If people feel stressed all the time, constant chronic stress is a withdrawal from body budget. But if we have people feeling safe in an environment. So not just the person, but the environment or the context. And that creates deposits as well for people. So there's lots of things we can think kind of from the micro, those meals, to the connections, and then the wider context that we create for people.
I think it's so important to hear that from you, because connection is essential to everything that we do, and it's so great to hear that backing from neuroscience of that. This is essentially what our children need. It's not a luxury. We have to have that connection with them. You also mentioned about social isolation. Give us a little wave of your flags if you have ever been in a school that's done time out or any kind of, social isolation. Thank you so much. Can you explain from your expertise why this is terrible for our children?
So social isolation. So let's think about connections first of all. Why are connections so important? We know connections have the biggest impact on well-being across a lifespan. So there's a very famous study in psychology and neuroscience called the Harvard study, which looks at people long-term and their health and psychological health and physical health. And we know that the social connections they have the biggest impact on physical, mental health and longevity, so how long they live. So positive connections are absolutely critical. So let's flip that over and think about social isolation. Positive connections are good for well-being. Social isolation, not through choice, let's just say that, because I sometimes like to withdraw.
Definitely.
That's very healthy for me. That's a deposit into my body budget, because I like to socialise and then I like to have time away from socialising. So choice, taking time out, is a very positive thing. But social isolation, when you don't feel connected, you don't feel people are supporting you, is one of the biggest stressors for the body. So it creates huge withdrawals, I'm getting confused now. It creates huge withdrawals from the body. And we can think of this in lots of ways. First of all, if we're doing a time out for a child having an emotion, it tells them emotions are punishable. Emotions are something they shouldn't have. Emotions are things that we should push away. We're not allowed to have. So you can think about it in terms of the emotion and how it impacts on that. But also we're saying when a child needs connection most, we're actually taking the connection away from them. Connection encourages our behaviour. If I feel connected to you, I'm going to say more in this interview. If I feel you're not listening, you're disconnecting from me, I'm going to disengage a bit and probably say less and feel less encouraged to say yes. But even just the way you're looking at me and the way you're listening and responding is encouraging me to open up. So, but if I was suddenly socially isolated, if I came in here and nobody welcomed me or nobody said anything, I would start to feel stressed and then I would respond differently. So it's absolutely critical.
It's so interesting. As you were saying that, I was kind of thinking about us as adults and like when our behaviour is not at our best, but that's the time when we really need the people we love to be like, it's okay, I've got you, it's okay. And that's not the time when we want someone to say, off to your room then and we'll shut the door. That's the time where we need that connection.
I'm just going to come into that because it's about what we call psychological safety. So do you feel, and that's really critical for workplaces, for schools, for everybody. So do you feel psychologically safe to be able to express yourself and say what you think, but also know that if you say something that maybe goes against the kind of social norm or goes against what, so in a workplace, against what the leaders are saying, you might challenge that, or you're saying that you feel really rubbish. Is that going to be contained and is it going to be safe to say that? So I think a lot of it is about psychological safety and how safe you feel to be able to do something or say something.
Yeah. And you also you highlighted suppressing emotions as a withdrawal. Yeah. And I think that's really key for us at TGMC. It's so, so important. We make time to validate emotions. We have lots of strategies to ensure children can share them. But how can we expect a child's behaviour to change if they don't have opportunities to either identify or talk about them?
So we can think about this in two ways. If a child's never learned to do it, and then if they can understand their emotions, and then they have to suppress those. So I think there's kind of two categories for that. So let's think about the first category first. So emotions are how we feel, and that can be quite scary. When we feel down or when we feel anxious, it's quite a scary feeling in our body if we can't describe and label it, if we don't know what's going on. So that can be scary and create stress, and children can react out to it. So there's lots of evidence to show in adults, as well as children, if they're not able to understand and label what's going on in their bodies, then they react in a less helpful way to what's going on in it. They also, so if we can, if it's part of us, rather than be able to see it as an emotion, if these scary things are going on in our body, it can become part of our identity. So this is who I am. This is not an emotion I am experiencing, this is who I am. So it becomes kind of something critical or unhelpful about them. Whereas if we're able to label and step back from it, we're able to think, that's an emotion I'm experiencing. That's something that's a common experience and something that is not something critical about me. It's not my identity, it's something I'm experiencing. So it can help shape how we experience emotions, and then we're more likely to, rather than being pushed along and reacting kind of in the emotion, we're more likely to be able to step back and have helpful coping mechanisms to deal with emotion. So that's kind of learning to experience emotion in the first place. Then you have being able to express the emotion. So we know that if we express emotions, if we label them, we validate them, we recognize them, we're better able to respond to them generally as adults. It's the same as children. And then conversely, if you've ever tried to suppress something, it's really, really hard work. There's a very, very famous psychology experiment called Don't Think of a White Elephant. Have you heard of it? Yes?
Just as you said that, I'm like, yeah, white elephant.
Yeah. So if I ask the whole room to say, don't think of a white elephant, most of you will start thinking about it all the time. Sometimes people will manage to get distracting techniques, so they might be able to kind of think about something else and kind of, and not think about it, but whatever technique you're going to use is going to take a lot of effort. So trying not to think about something takes a lot of energy. Trying not to do that long term creates a lot of stress in our bodies. So actually we know that if people try and keep emotions in, it creates a lot of stress, it uses up a lot more brain resources, it's really difficult for them. They have less capacity to deal with what's going on in the room. So for example, if I asked you not to think about white elephant and you did whatever it was or thought about it, you're less able to learn what's going on as well. So it uses a lot of brain capacity. So it's incredibly stressful for bodies to not think of things long term and keep them in. And we can see this physiologically. Bodies get stressed when we don't express emotions. So they become unhelpful for us long term.
Yeah, that's great. That's one of our biggest arguments. I'm looking at Soph because we said it in one of our trainings where we were talking about making time for emotions and checking in, and someone said to us, well, we just don't have time to do that in the curriculum. And Soph said, well, if they're not emotionally there, they're not learning regardless. So it's really, really important to hear that from your perspective as well. It takes up so much cognitive capacity to be thinking about whatever that is you're experiencing.
Unlimited cognitive capacity. So if all the time is taken up trying to keep this thing in, and our brain space is used to doing that, then we have less brain space for doing whatever we need to be doing.
Yeah. I just wanted to journey back into isolation, because it is used as a teaching tool in schools. If we do that, then they will understand and they will learn. And that is such an ingrained concept in schools. And I just wanted to get from your perspective, are they learning anything in isolation?
It depends how stressful they find it, I guess. So if it's used in a helpful way, again, I can't comment kind of on the kind of teaching aspect or the kind of theory behind that. But if it's creating a lot of stress for the child and it's using a lot of their capacity, it comes down to that kind of what's using that child's capacity, and they're in distress or hugely stressed. The likelihood of learning when you're very stressed is very low. So if the socialisation is causing stress, then probably not.
So you talk about co-regulation as an important tool for emotions that feel difficult. And I think it'd just be really helpful, firstly, to just explain co-regulation.
Sure. So we've got, I don't know, how many people are in the room, Jen?
20.
20. So you've all got a brain you've brought into this room, and therefore you've all got emotions you've brought into this room. But your brains are not, they don't sit in isolation. Yes, they sit in your skull in isolation, but your brains don't sit in isolation by themselves, because what I do and what I say influence your brains, and what you do and what you say and what Jen's saying right now to me influences how my brain operates. Our brains are interconnected. They're all interconnected, and we all influence each other. You know, if you're driving along and somebody starts being really aggressive to you, what do? You become aggressive or really upset back. Probably one of the two is the major reaction. So whatever you do and whatever you say influences other people's brains. And we can use that. We can use it really beneficially to help regulate people. So for example, the way Jen's sitting right now, she's sitting very attentive, listening to me, smiling at me, which you can probably see. She's co-regulating me, because most people come into a talk quite anxious, but she's co-regulating my brain by saying, it's okay, Emma. You know, I'm listening, I'm here, what you're saying is not rubbish, hopefully. What you're saying is not rubbish, what you're saying is decent, and I want to hear it. So she's calming me down by doing that, so she's calming my brain down. So we can co-regulate by what we say and how we interact and what we do. We can also co-regulate through touch. You know, if a child's holding your hand walking down the street, you're co-regulating them because you're helping keep them calm and feel safe. Cuddles co-regulate, obviously, you know, in school that might not, but you know, if I cuddle my child, I'm co-regulating them, apart from my teenage son who's just turned 14, who just wants me to go away. So it depends, and I think that's the thing, it depends. But we can co-regulate in how we interact. Now, the problem is like I said with the driver, our brains also react to stress and other people with stress. So often at the point when we need to co-regulate, so let's go back to my 14-year-old son here, who is having a tantrum, worse than when he was 2. Hope he never listens to this. But then I start feeling angry because he's getting angry at me. Then it's really difficult for me to co-regulate because my brain is firing all these kind of neurons and I start to get angry, and it's difficult for me to stay calm. So instead, I do the opposite of co-regulate. I wind him up. He winds me up back, and we bounce off each other and wind each other up. So we do the opposite of co-regulation. But what I've noticed is if I step away and calm down, then I can co-regulate him. So I can, and that's probably for a 14-year-old walking away from him, to be honest, because that's what he wants me to do. But you know, it is about learning kind of what does calm those emotions and using your emotions and your behaviour, how you interact, how you look, touch. Okay, a cuddle at that point would definitely not co-regulate him. But all those things to help co-regulate that person's brain, you're actually calming that brain down. And you think about that, about the voices you hear that calm you down. I hear my husband's voice. Mostly it calms me down. Mostly, sometimes it doesn't. But there's certain, you know, hearing my daughter's voice on the phone, I love it. It makes me feel great. So you can think about how you use that interaction of brains to help calm down a situation.
And it was actually Dr. Emma who recommended 7.5 Lessons of the Brain.
Oh, my best friend.
Which everyone knows has changed my life. It really did change my life,
Did I send it to you, Jen?
Yes. When we had our interview, you were like, this is the book. And I was like, oh, and you were like, it's only this big. And I was like, okay, I'll get it.
It is wonderful.
It's brilliant.
It's my top psychology book.
But there's one sentence in there where she says, you know, you are influencing someone else's nervous system. Regardless of what you think you're doing, you are, either for better or worse. And I think that is so impactful for us as parents, educators, but in general, that all the time we are doing that. And it might be worth just having a little moment on that, because we talk a lot about, are we escalating the situation or are we de-escalating it? And it's really tough in class when you've got like 30 children and a child is just like, I ain't doing it. And you're like, what? And it really like throws you. So it's really interesting. I think it might be worth thinking about what ways do we escalate another person's nervous system.
So let's imagine Jen started shouting at me right now. I would find that incredibly stressful. My brain would start, you know, kind of go into overdrive. I'd feel quite stressed. I'd probably start shutting down. I probably wouldn't want to say very much. If you were looking really distracted, perhaps, and looking like there's something much more interesting over there, if you were turning away from me, if you weren't looking like you were able to kind of take what I was saying, if you're looking kind of really in distress or angry at me. So, you know, body language again, how you're saying it, what you're saying it. So notice Jen is nodding her head lots, very clearly listening. If she wasn't doing that, and she was just kind of, then that would probably make me quite stressed. There's so many things through what we say, what we do, the beliefs we're kind of creating of somebody, because I believe you're listening, even if you're not. I believe you're listening because of what you're doing. So all those things are kind of co-regulating and impacting in my brain.
So much of it is that body language.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you talked about, you know, when we're feeling stressed and you're saying, you know, walk away from your 14-year-old, which is cool. Most of the times in the classroom, we can't really walk away. But what could you recommend for calming our stressors if we feel like we are?
So I think the things in the moment that calm us down are really physical things, and that the one thing that I think when I started as a psychologist I dismissed a lot was just slowing my breathing. But we know that slowing your breathing down regulates your nervous system. It helps calm you down. It activates your sympathetic nervous system. So it's something I use a lot in the moment, but it almost seems so simple or too simple that I know when I introduce it into a kind of, you know, when I'm working with somebody, they look at me like this. Yeah, right.
People want something really complex.
Yes, exactly. And then you give them the kind of science behind it, and quite often they'll come on board, but still they'll go out going, oh yeah, right, that psychologist told me to breathe. Yeah, well done. Yeah. And I remember these are Scottish people. They're very cynical, particularly, you know, so that I'm working with. So I think that's the thing. It's it is, you know, really those physical things you can do in the moment. If you can, and obviously you can't always walk away from the situation, just take a little moment to kind of calm that down. Maybe if there is a kind of place you can step to, that could be really helpful. I do kind of walk away from a situation if I can, but you can't always do that. But I think those kind of physical responses, or you can also, you know, kind of speak to yourself as well. Look at what you're saying to yourself. You know, you might be kind of criticizing yourself. We often do in those situations. Can you be more compassionate to yourself? So physical, what you're saying in the moment as well. And if you can, just get yourself a moment to calm down. Sometimes you can get the opportunity in the moment.
Do you know what? You're so good at busting myths as well. I heard one the other day, whilst I've got you here. Oh, right. You don't mind, do you?
No, not at all.
That if you have water when you're apparently it flushes the cortisol.
Okay, I've never heard of that one.
Okay, so it's not true, everyone.
Well, what I'd say is water can just kind of calm you down. Yeah. So I will take a drink of water here because I'm thirsty, but it's taken a moment as well. It's taken a moment to yourself. So I don't know if it flushes the cortisol and kind of a neurochemical. And just, yeah, it would be fantastic. And it's not just, it's not just cortisol that causes you stress, of course, as well. But what it can do, water, is just take a moment just to kind of calm down. Now, there's a really good technique that I was told last week when I was speaking. Somebody said, whenever I lose what I'm saying, because we all lose what we're saying sometimes, I take a drink of water. It's a pause. So it's a pause. Flushing the cortisol, probably not.
But having a pause, definitely. So anything, basically anything that can bring you back to that present moment.
Yeah, kind of ground you, kind of bring you back to the here and now.
One thing that we do teaching our children, and I always say practice what you teach, but one of those things is like grounding exercises, just those temple points. They just take you back to the present moment.
It's taking a moment, isn't it? It's taking a moment to stop. And all these things are taking a moment rather than react to how you're feeling. You're taking a moment to stop and even naming, okay, I'm feeling quite angry right now. I'm feeling quite frustrated right now. You step back from the emotion, you notice it's there, then you can think, how do I want to respond? Rather than kind of, as psychologists we call it, you respond in the wave of emotion, and that's responding kind of because of exactly what's happening. Or you can ride the wave of emotion. You can step back and notice, I'm feeling really angry right now. How am I going to ride that wave and respond to it?
I love that. And that's such a good visual for children as well. It's like, grab your surfboard, let's go. No, I love that.
I have a surfing brain in my first week.
Oh, yes, of course you do.
So I have been a Little Coach House rep for about 5 or 6 years now, and they're just a fantastic resource made entirely out of natural materials, wooden materials, for you to support your children at home or at school with their emotional well-being and sort of restoring themselves back to calm through just mindful activities. And my favorite resource from them is the breathing boards. There are so many. There's spirals, there's the infinity, there's rainbows, but it's all about encouraging your children to physically use their body to find their calm. My lot love the spiral one because for them it goes on for a long time, and we've got it in our calm corner, so you can have it in your calm corner, you can have it in your calm box. But they're fantastic resources for just bringing support to your children, to helping them find their calm. So we talked about encouraging our children to be able to do that independently, but this is a great resource for them to be able to do that as well. So I encourage it to have in your calm corners or your calm spaces. as just a lovely natural resource for them to use, and it's quick and simple and easy, and it slows them down because they have to use the balls to move it around the boards, and I just love them. So I recommend them, and there's a couple of flyers with a QR code, and there is a cheeky discount for our TGMCers. So have an explore of the tools, have a feel of them, just feel how natural they are, and just how calming they are for you, and the impact that they'll have on your children as well. So yeah.
It really echoes what we've spoken about in both of our chats as well, about giving children those skills, about preventative strategies, about what Dr. Emma was saying, about actually helping them find their calm. And I love just what you said, Soph, that they're concrete. Before I knew you were a rep, yeah, I actually bought some, and I was like, what the hell? But like, I got some for Miles and stuff. I do really, really love them. And for those children who you're like, just breathe, and they're like, they need something physical, and that's how we support them with that. So they are really, honestly brilliant.